pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 as amended on March 28, 2025. This meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if there are tech problems unless required by law. Viewers can visit the localscene.media/Duxbury, formerly pac-tv, to watch a video replay of this meeting on Duxbury YouTube. Mary, what's down?
The town's website is down, so people who go to our calendar and call up your agenda to link to this meeting are unfortunately unable to do that right now.
Okay, so hopefully.
But they can watch the replay.
That's what I did. I just went to the town website and clicked on the link, so.
Yeah, it's been up and down, and we just got a notification from the CTO as I was leaving the office that it's down.
Yeah.
No, I just did it 2 minutes. That's how I got on this call.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, well, maybe it's back up. So let's just say that the town website is not as reliable as we would hope. It's intermittent. So if it doesn't work, it won't be a surprise. Okay, let's start with some articles here. We moved up to Article 19. We have a couple that we're going to be revisiting, but let's see if we can proceed through this. And that would be the proposed cemetery expansion. And we've already talked about this. Bob has been kind enough to provide some more information on it. I had one question, which was I had asked the trustees if all of the land that is designated for this is under the care and protection of the cemetery trustees. The answer is yes. So that was my only question, and the rest of it seemed pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any questions on this?
As I said, I can give you a 4-sentence.
Sure, that'd be great.
Summary.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Hayes.
Not a One is that it's required by law.
Right.
The town has to do it.
Yep.
Second, we are running out of space in the only active cemetery, which is Mayflower. It's hard to know, but we have 2 years perhaps left of space. Although we can adjust that. Chip is very good at adjusting that. So anyway.
It's fabulous.
But we need to have more space. We've been at it for a while. We had a master plan back in 2017 or something, and then have since hired a top-notch landscape architect in Boston, who is very active in cemetery services. They do Mount Auburn and others. Very, very talented. They have come up with a great plan. It is a plan to just about use the remaining lot or the remaining open space that's at the southwest end of Tremont Street, the continuation of Mayflower. It doesn't involve any other land, just that.
Right.
It is cemetery land. The plan we like a lot. You've got a characterization of that plan and some pictures, but we like it a lot. It will last, hard to know exactly, but about 30 years, maybe a little bit more, but not exactly clear. One question that's come up a couple of times, and I'll just cover it briefly, is, well, don't need cemetery space anymore because everybody's being cremated. The answer is that cremations have increased less than I think people thought, but are increasing. They're about roughly 50%. But in Duxbury, the number of graves being purchased has remained pretty constant for the last several years, 25 years, 20 years, for different reasons. In the past, it was because people bought a number of lots for their families, which I think turns out not to be the case because kids typically move away. But anyway, they bought 4, 8, sometimes more lots But that is no longer the case. In part because Chip has reduced the number that you can buy in order to protect what we have until we can build some more. But we have continued at about the pace we have because at least the people that come to Duxbury, and it's more than just Duxbury, because the surrounding towns don't have the facilities that Duxbury has for burials. And it's very popular with respect to other towns, surrounding towns. And we sell we service people other than Duxbury people. But in fact, most people that we see come in and they understand that they can buy a cremation lot only, but what they want is to have a headstone. And a headstone so that their family can come and remember them. And in order to have a headstone, you need to buy in Mayflower 2 full casket burial lots. So people, and I'd say this, as of today, people come and buy, notwithstanding cremated remains, 2 lots because they want a headstone. And so the number of lots we are selling has remained just about constant, notwithstanding that cremation is a very popular thing. We have a plan, as I say, that'll last 30 years, and the last sentence I'll say in my summary is, we hope, and we have been careful about it, and but we hope the budget works, but none of the monies is coming from the taxpayers. It's all from cemetery funds. Right. We hope you approve.
4 cents.
That's 4 sentences for him. It's fine. Those are
Sorry.
lovely sentences. Maybe a little run on, but good.
Bob, is there any room at Ashdod?
Oh, no.
It's
Well,
not-
I mean, I said, there are no graves for sale. There may be some that are there already purchased and available for that family in Brooklyn, but no, there is no other graves for sale in town. Well, I don't know, I shouldn't say that. I think the Episcopal Church has a small
Yep.
cemetery in the back. I don't know anything about that, but the town sells only graves. That's the only one available.
Okay, thank you.
The requirement for 2 lots for a headstone, if you're just in an urn. I'm not sure what's behind that. I don't know what, because it seems to me that you could get more lots if you weren't requiring that for someone who simply wanted an urn and a headstone.
I understand, and again, Duxbury's lucky that we have land and there is more land. We wouldn't go into it, but Duxbury's lucky to have land that's put aside for the cemetery. What we wanted to do was to make the expansion space to be what?
Consistent.
Compatible with the rest of the historic cemetery. We could, well, if you buy a full burial lot, single one, you can put 4 urns in there of cremated remains. You don't have to put 1, you can put 4. We sell, don't push it, but sell single lots, and people do that. But if we were to permit also a headstone on every single lot, you would not have the same cemetery as you do now. It would be simply, well, as I say, Duxbury's lucky, but for instance, surrounding towns now are selling cemetery space because they need to do it this way. And what they do is they pre-dig them and they lay them out in a strip and then cover them over. And when you come in to buy, you buy the next one. You can only buy 2. And that's it. And you go right down the line. We view our cemetery as something that's a great asset to the town. I think is a reflective, nice place to be. Nice place to have your loved one. I don't think that would continue if you permitted a headstone on every lot.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, Jay, are you had a question?
I think we've been well educated on this and where the trustees are involved.
Yep.
In handling it, and I move we accept Article 20
As presented,
as presented.
Second.
okay? So,
Enthusiastically.
right, you had to say hello, Bob. Okay, so let's start on the screen here. Mark,
Yes.
all those in favor, Mark?
Aye. You don't hear
Okay,
me.
Teddy?
You not hear me?
I
Can you hear me?
can now.
Oh,
Now I
okay.
can.
Aye.
Teddy,
Yes.
Al,
Aye.
JR,
JRI.
Brenda,
Ashley, I.
Betsy, I, Kathleen, I. Okay. Beautiful.
we had 8, right?
We got
800.
Yep, 800. Okay, thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Bob.
Thank you all.
You're welcome to stay or we won't judge you if you go.
Not likely.
Well, it's fun, but I think I'll go.
Okay, oh jeez, okay. Thank you so much for coming out.
Richard, no.
All right,
Bridgerton.
yes, Bridgerton, I know, you've got it, season 4, it's unbelievable, can't wait.
I'd have to start with season 1, my friend.
Oh, all right, well, worth it too. All right, so Article 21, amend the town of Duxbury protective bylaw for battery energy storage systems. This has been interesting. And
We have our town planner, Matthew
yeah,
Lane's here with us.
are you going to be speaking to this article for us, sir?
Yeah, do you want me to go to the front or can I just?
You can do whatever you would like. We're kind of a free thinking crowd here on that.
Yeah,
You're comfy, you stay put.
so basically, as probably most of you know, there was, it obviously started, I've only been here about 6 months, so it began before I started here, but there was this controversial project, a battery energy storage project. I think it was on a property along North Street, I believe.
West.
West, okay, sorry, West Street, I got those directions messed up. And so that created a lot of controversy in the neighborhood since, like virtually all of Duxbury, it's a residential neighborhood. And so I believe it led to some litigation, which I guess is sort of currently ongoing, or maybe the appealed, or it's unclear. But in any case, it definitely raised the awareness of people in Duxbury about the issue and kind of the need for the town to regulate battery energy storage projects in the future to the extent that we can. As you can see probably in that, if you can see the zoning bylaw there, battery energy storage systems are often abbreviated using the acronym BESS. So just to kind of regulate and control BESS projects in the future, because it does appear as though, I mean, there's even been articles about this in the New York Times and so forth. This is a growth industry. A lot of these projects are now increasingly being built in the United States and other places around the world. In many cases, they're linked to clean energy supplies because, with a traditional power plant, whether it's like nuclear or coal powered or something else, well, maybe not so much for other, traditionally, like if you need more energy, you just sort of throw more coal into the machines, at least to a certain point, so you can generate enough energy on the hottest day. But with say wind and solar and maybe hydropower to some extent, you're kind of limited to how much the wind is blowing, how much sun is shining, and then you need to store that energy to then release it on the days when you need it most. And so these battery projects are crucial in that regard. So it's definitely a growth industry. We kind of have reason to believe there's a possibility we'll see more in the future. In some cases, these battery projects are kind of tied to solar arrays. And so you could have like a proposal for a solar project with the batteries kind of in the midst of it. But also in many cases, and I think this was the case with the one on West Street, they're just kind of freestanding projects where, they're not nearly as big as a solar array, of course, because you don't need such a massive amount of space, but they're still, probably at least 3 or 4 acres, maybe in some cases quite a bit larger. I think they often consist of separate batteries in these kind of containers. In some cases, there might be an actual building that contains it all, but I think in most cases, there's no actual real kind of building in the traditional sense. It's just these different structures that each one's like sort of like a big container that contains the batteries within it. And so basically what we're proposing with the zoning, or basically what we've been informed by town council, is that because basically the courts have kind of ruled that these are tied to solar and other clean energy projects, and because of what some of the litigation, the case law has determined, basically you can't, a town or city cannot limit it to just like 1 or 2% of the town's area. I think there was a case, called Tracer in Waltham, where I believe it was Waltham was limiting solar and battery projects to only like maybe 1% of the town's area, which was probably some industrial area. And the court basically said that's too restrictive. But at this point in time, we don't really know. It's still kind of evolving. The case law and the law is still evolving about this. So we don't know like exactly what percentage it should be or what are the criteria that might be, like if your town has a lot of wetlands, can you be more restrictive? There's a lot of issues that still frankly haven't really been figured out yet. And so there's a certain amount of guesswork here. But what we're proposing basically would allow best projects in about 10% of Duxbury, approximately. I think it's maybe 9.7%, which we certainly hope would be adequate to satisfy the Attorney General or to satisfy a court. And in fact, I've got a map that kind of shows where it would be, but essentially it would be, as you can probably read in the text there, it would be in the 3 planned development zones, in the 3 neighborhood business zones, but then subtracting out some of the overlay districts, which are environmentally sensitive for one reason or another. And so once you subtract those out, what you wind up getting is approximately 10% of the town.
Do we have to do this?
I think we don't, but if we don't do this, then I think we'd be more vulnerable to the possibility that like we'd be on, if a developer proposed a project in kind of the worst possible place, we wouldn't have the legal capacity to say no, because we wouldn't have any regulations, and so our court would just say, you're not restricting it anywhere, so therefore, because of state law, it's allowed anywhere, other than maybe like environmental restrictions and that sort of thing. But as far as zoning goes, if we don't restrict it, then I think there's a risk. And that may be a better question for town council, but I think from my point of view, I think it creates a risk that if we don't regulate it, that essentially like we're vulnerable and we can't prevent it anywhere.
I think we're saving money by doing this, because it's saving money on the law end, because we're gonna get sued over and over and over again for all of these guys that have come forward trying to get it done. We're gonna have to litigate, and it's gonna cost us time and money. So if we have a set of rules, at least the zoning officer can look at it and say, no, you can't do that, because, and he can point to something.
Is there an ongoing lawsuit with the existing application for a battery storage facility?
I think they
was
backed up.
denied? Is that still?
But we had to spend money and time.
Project that,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear any answer.
Matthew, and maybe you can or cannot speak to it, but the state is currently underway with defining regulations to allow these things as of right, correct? And so what we're trying to do is get ahead of that. I know that's in process, so I don't know if you could speak to that and sort of what the state regulations are allowing.
Yeah, so these new state regulations, which they're in the process of creating, I believe those are still, I don't think it's going to be as of right everywhere. I think towns are still going to be able to have some local control. But I think one crucial thing the state regulation is going to do is it's going to allow developers to apply for some sort of, I'm forgetting the word, sort of like comprehensive permit or kind of agglomerated permit, where like they apply once and the town, like all the different departments and boards in town have to make a decision within, I think maybe it's a year or something like that. And so it can still, the different boards and departments can still follow their own proper procedures and processes, but it all has to be done within a year. and it's all kind of lumped together into some sort of agglomerated permit. And I think obviously that's to prevent towns from kind of stretching that in.
So this isn't a commercial.
Well, so I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
like, this type of a project feels like it should be considered a commercial / industrial
Yeah,
style project. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an expert on this, but I believe that the state regulations are specifically stating that these are allowed in residential areas. And that poses a big challenge here for the town of Duxbury.
So
Is that an accurate statement? I believe that's what I read the last time I looked at the regulation proposal.
I'm not sure. That could be. I honestly don't know. I mean, I've looked over some of those regulations and I attended one or two of the remote meetings. I don't remember this as far as residential areas. I don't recall. I do believe that we can, they're not forcing us to allow it in every residential area, I think.
I
But at
think,
the same time, I think probably we can't say no, like, and obviously Duxbury is like 98% zone residential, so we can't say no just because an area is zone residential is my impression, which I think is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the crucial thing because, you know, a lot of cities and towns have areas, you know, sometimes, like I used to work in Pembroke, or maybe Pembroke is like, maybe about 5% or 3% of Pembroke is zoned industrial, even though it's actually a variety of land uses, but the zone is industrial. And so Pembroke kind of has, again, it's maybe 3%, 5%. Where Pembroke can say, okay, here's what we set aside for industrial uses, you can go there. You know, Duxbury doesn't have that advantage. You know, Duxbury is basically about 1% of Duxbury is the 3 business zones, then maybe about 1% is the dune zone. And the other 98% of Duxbury is the RC zone and the 3 planned development zones. And the planned development zones, which we often call the PD zones, are essentially residential, even though technically I don't know if you'd classify them, but for all practical purposes, they're residential too. So basically, you know, Duxbury is zoned like maybe about 98% residential. And so we don't have much space where we can say, oh no, you need to go over there into that zone.
but we can't even, a guy can't put a sign out front of his house saying, you know, Joe Smith, attorney at law, in a residential zone, and you're telling me that it's okay for us to put battery storage? That doesn't make any sense at all.
If it's supplying your house,
Yeah, if he's selling the
That's it.
battery, if he's selling the storage, that's a commercial use versus if it's just personal, it's just personal.
So yeah, so
Right.
that's basically what I am telling you. Of course, it might not be okay, but that's the reality of what the state and the courts are imposing. I mean, there's more, I could say more to it. Basically, the bottom line is that is what they are. And it's not just for battery, but also for, I think, for solar, and I'm not sure about wind, but for solar and other kinds of clean energy as well. You know, we don't have to allow them everywhere, but we have to, like every town and city has to kind of take part of the burden. And so we do have to at least allow.
So only some people that own houses could put battery storage in their backyard.
I think anybody can do it if it's only for your own house or your own business. I think anybody can do it if it's just a small battery, you know, like a backup battery to provide power to your house. But if it's a large facility where, like you said, like you're actually selling a substantial amount of energy back to the grid, then that becomes a commercial project. And in that case, you know, the regulations get tighter, and we can prohibit those in a large portion of the town. But
So
we
Matthew, is each town required to have a battery storage zone?
No.
So
No.
there's a possibility that for this commercial usage, that there could be partnerships among towns, larger towns with, say, Plymouth, that has, you know, more commercial space. I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to parse between the residential where you have a storage that is supporting a single family home, right? As opposed to someone selling energy essentially
Yeah.
from a commercial use. I'm not quite sure I understand.
I think when this
So-
goes to town meeting, people are gonna have to have a much clearer view of what this 6 pages will allow and what it will allow
so
anywhere.
if somebody has, and that may be true, but it's no reason not to talk about it.
No, absolutely, you're right.
So if somebody has solar panels on their roof,
Yeah,
residential area,
yep,
and when they're not using all the power that's supplied to them, they're selling it back. They're selling
To the
it back.
Eversource. Right,
Commercially selling it, they're selling it back.
right.
So they are already operating in that mode. The guy with the battery is the guy that's trying to go stand alone. He's trying to take his energy and store it for his own use, or at least it should say for his own use. And in our current situation in the world and everything, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right, I don't either,
It's like
but
having your own well water.
It's,
so
Yeah.
what, I'm trying to understand what this particular article is,
Where it's allowed.
where it's allowed and where it isn't allowed, I guess is where I'm going, Matthew.
And these are bigger arrays that they're talking about too, where they have a huge stack of these.
well, it doesn't say that.
That's set for commercial.
It doesn't have any wattage on it. It doesn't have any.
Yeah, there's the loopholes. There's loopholes
Can
all over.
I
it.
ask a basic question? So obviously there's a lawsuit that was filed. It led to some courts. You know, Duxbury rejected it. Bottom line is, like, the town of Duxbury has appealed the land court decision to the Mass Appeals Court. Mass Appeals Court has not decided yet. Like, why try to front run what the appeals court could decide in the next 6 months? Like, why not see what the court system shakes out and then dictate our bylaws to whatever the courts decide, versus trying to front run it? The courts come out with something else, and then we all have to change.
Right.
This is my first experience with all of this, but it seems like there's an active legal process going. Let it play out, and then decide what the bylaws need to be.
I disagree about that, except that the part of the court's decision may include the fact that we don't have a bylaw. So in the absence of a bylaw, the court may make a decision in
Yeah,
a
I'd like-
certain respect.
Yeah, I'd like to
Does that
speak
make
to that.
sense?
I know
Yeah.
a few people have their hands up, but I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to speak to that and also
You
back a
should.
little bit. So, I mean, that's a valid point, but I think from the point of view of the town and also from some of the residents, there's a group of residents who have been advocating for this, as you might imagine, because they lived in the neighborhood where there was the possibility of that project happening, which I guess is still perhaps a possibility. And so, I think they're very enthusiastic about trying to get it passed at this town meeting. We've also kind of seen the signs in parts of Duxbury, against the project and stuff. I think also it's to our benefit to kind of get it passed as soon as possible, so that we put the town in a better position. So if some developer comes in May and says, "Hey, here's a project. We've got the zoning bylaw change done, and we're in a better position." And then if it turns out the court creates new case law, in a year from now or 2 years from now, who knows how long it'll take, then we can make adjustments to our bylaw if we need to. I guess the other thing I wanted to back up on, as far as where it would be, I've only got one copy of this, but I can pass it around. This map, which actually my assistant Emily, who has really good mapping GIS software skills, made. So I can pass it around. It shows where the projects actually would be allowed. And I should just kind of briefly mention, that as far as the logic of why we chose those 6 zones, the 3 PD zones and the 3 business zones, basically the premise is that the 3 planned development zones, the PD zones, at some point in the 70s, those were selected as areas that potentially could contain slightly denser development or slightly more mixes of types of land uses, because I guess at the time the soils in those areas were deemed to be better, maybe for septic, I suppose. So at least kind of in theory, from a zoning point of view, those are the areas that were kind of felt would be more appropriate for slightly more density. Now,
So the green is what is included.
exactly, yeah, and that's about 10%.
That's quite a bit of the land.
It's actually only about 10%, but it is a lot. So of course, in reality, the PD zones, are not really that much different from the RC zone. It's all really pretty much dominated by single family residences, along with some, green spaces and protected wildlands and so forth. But still, that's kind of the premise, is that we had to kind of have some kind of a premise of how to choose, because as I mentioned before, the reality is that about 98% of the town is zoned for residential in practice. And
Does
so
anything in here
it was
speak
hard
to whether
decide
it's a
what.
commercial use or not? Whether there's any more restrictions on commercial versus somebody doing it for their for themselves, for their own property?
So it's just, there's I think it's 100 megawatt. Basically, there's just a number that divides it. Anything smaller than,
Mhm.
if I can find the verbiage here.
I'm looking.
It doesn't appear, Matthew, it doesn't appear from the,
On page 45. Large scale fire test, nope. Best systems with a capacity greater than 100 kilowatts WH,
I think that's kilowatt hours.
kilowatt hours.
Yeah, so this rule, this zoning bylaw would apply to any best project with a capacity greater than 100 kilowatt hours, which I think is pretty much a dividing line between people who have like a small battery or a medium-sized battery, like to power their own house or business, maybe to back up a little bit. Whereas anybody who's doing like a serious commercial project where they're really doing it as a,
Like what was happening out on West Street?
yeah, where they're doing it like not for a few houses, but as a development to make money to sell it.
Do you have
to
any
sell it
sense of how
to
big
the utility.
kilowatts per hour battery storage thing would look like? Because I have a generator.
Hmm.
And it's a Generac, it's about half the size of this table. And it sits next to my house
Yeah.
and kicks on when the fire goes off.
Yeah.
It's fueled by propane tanks.
Yeah,
Is this thing about that size?
that'd be my guess, but I don't know.
Yeah, okay, I'm just curious.
so Matthew,
The ones that, I'm sorry, to that, if I might, just to follow up on that. The ones I've seen, because I've seen some of these in some other municipalities, and the units that I've seen are the size of a, a pod, like when people are moving
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
rent pods. Those I've seen battery storage units that are the size and structure of something like that.
That's a lot
So,
bigger than that.
and that was years ago, so there's certainly some variability between now and then, but
Thank
that's
you,
what I've
Ashley.
witnessed. Definitely, I didn't interrupt.
You're solar on the water.
So- I guess I'd be interested in who composed the article.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's from, we used, what's the name of the town? I think it was the town of West Newbury, I believe it is, which is in Massachusetts, which apparently they created a zoning bylaw to regulate best projects. And they passed it at town meeting, maybe about a year ago or 6 months ago, and it was approved by the Attorney General, which is always a good thing. Maybe 4 or 5 months ago, the Attorney General approved it. And so then, town council gave that to us and said, this might be a good kind of template or a good first step to use. So we used that as a starting point. We added a lot of verbiage to kind of customize it for our own purposes. Changed some things here and there and so forth, but still, that's kind of the basis.
Was there a committee, Matthew, that you worked with that helped you? That helped tailor this to
It was-
Duxbury?
Pretty much me and the planning board and town council.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We did get a little bit of advice from some of the residents, some of the people who've been interested, some of the Duxbury residents who've taken interest in this as well, yeah.
Is any of the green town land?
Yeah, some of it probably is.
I think a lot of it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the town.
It might be under conservation.
A
I think
third.
the map is good, but I think we need to label it what the properties are. I mean, if part of it's Bennett's Forest or something like that, then
That's not happening.
that ain't gonna happen. And I mean, the schools, I think the schools in there.
Yep. I
Um,
thought so too.
Right?
I don't think,
might be a way we can make some money.
that's another possibility.
Well, so the interesting part of that is that, this falls under sort of the green initiatives. And
Yep.
with solar arrays, so solar arrays, their equipment is not directly taxable. And so we enter into pilot agreements with solar companies. And so we need to understand the tax, advantages or disadvantages of these types of developments in the community as well. So I'll need to work with the assessor to understand that, because if these are allowed to be taxable as structures like we have on, existing parcels, then this is going to require a specialty assessment in order to assess the value of these types of projects, which is, going to add some complexity
Yeah.
to our assessment. But I have to go back and refresh my memory on the taxable status, which I believe is gonna end up being non-taxable.
Yeah. Well, if it's not taxable, it's
So two quick questions. So I don't have the benefit of looking at that map, but this zoning bylaw amendment would prohibit battery energy storage systems in an estimated 90% of Duxbury. So 90% of Duxbury can't have them. And most of the 10% or some of the 10% is town-owned land, conservation land. So seems very, very restrictive. If I just want to get that clear, and I'm not an expert in this, so I'm kind of confused why a finance committee votes on this stuff, but so be it. And then it says 2/3 vote required at the town meeting to approve this article. I don't see that requirement on many of the other articles. So why the higher threshold versus the others?
Zoning
Although-
bylaws,
Zoning bylaw.
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Zoning bylaws require a 2/3 vote.
so actually there are, that's true. There are a few, if it's a zoning bylaw amendment that relates to affordability of housing, then I think it only requires a 1/2. Like for, I think MBTA communities only require a 1/2 vote, but in most cases, zoning amendments do require 2/3 vote. Yeah.
Matthew, can I ask a question? I'm not fully familiar with all of the details of the article. Does this bylaw at all, or is there some other mechanism that would address the issue of contamination? And so in my experience in working with some other counterparts in other communities, one of the concerns with these battery storage developments is that if they are not placed in sort of concrete foundations or impermeable containment units, that there could be leakage that happens that could contaminate the ground. And so is there any requirement or provision in here to protect us from that? Or would that be handled some other way through the permitting process?
My guess is that would be handled more through other parts of the permitting process. You know, there's a lot of NFPA rules that apply and other kinds of building code and specialty regulations, which of course, some of which are still being developed. You know, some of which I think are referenced in this zoning bylaw that would control for that. One thing that we did do is, at least in this zoning bylaw, it does prohibit it in the entire aquifer protection overlay district. You know, precisely for that reason, you know, just for the, you know, the danger of it, you know, toxins or whatever battery chemicals leaching into the ground where our aquifer is, as well as also banning it in wetlands and floodplain zones. So, you know, by that logic, we tried to help a little bit as well, but of course, yeah, we want it to be safe everywhere. And I think for the most part, that would be through other types of regulations.
I think that when this goes to town meeting, that I would say that there's probably a 99% of the people that own property in this town would be against having a battery storage farm next door, right?
Unless you wanted one yourself.
Nope, didn't, so then it's 100. And I think that they're going to be looking for detail on it, whether this applies to commercial or personal use, and what the regulations are surrounding that, and also where the commercial could be. I mean, we have no commercial land in town,
Exactly.
so that almost seems like a non-starter there. There isn't any land to put something like this up.
Are there going to be any hearing
Yeah.
Yeah.
scheduled, public information discussions about this article before town meeting?
Yeah, so the planning board is going to hold its public hearing on February 9th. That would just be part of the planning board meeting, and then there's a possibility it could be continued, you know, to the next planning board meeting as well.
But
And
nothing separate, like in the library or some hall where people could come and hear about it,
probably not.
just the meeting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're guessing that this isn't quite going to rise to the level of MBTA communities where, you know,
Get close.
such massive
I-
interest.
Could be close.
Close.
It could be close.
Yeah, don't get hopeful on us.
Yeah. I think as we get closer to town meeting, that's going to build.
I'm sorry, JR?
This is, there's a lot to think about here.
Yep.
I would like to see that chart updated to show us what pieces of land, you know, addresses or ownership of the available space.
Mhm.
I'm also leery of yes or knowing right now, because I do think if we look to the future, that we're gonna see more solar cells, we're gonna see more of that type of production. And I think a battery is part of that production.
Mhm.
And I don't think we should limit the citizens by saying no to this thing. You know, I do think it should be thought out to the point where if I wanted to put solar on my roof, on my work building, let's say, and at my house, my shop, I want to put a solar panel on there and I want to put a battery because that's part of this
Mhm.
system,
Makes it work better.
makes it work.
Right.
Other than selling it back. Because the interesting thing on the selling it back is you pay, when you get your electricity in, you pay a fee for the wires, right? Everything else.
Mhm.
Now they've kicked in when we sell it back, we pay a fee for the wires. So you're not making out like you used to with the solar because now you have to pay transportation both ways.
So it's in your distribution cost?
Distribution. Thank you. So I would like to, everybody's sitting here thinking about it, I would like to just put it
Table.
off for a week.
Yep.
And let everybody digest it and look at it and see.
But I think this is a good opportunity for Matthew to hear sort of some feedback and prepare for some questions for this public meeting that you've got scheduled, which is great. So
I think the planning board is correct, however, to try to get out ahead of this.
Oh, I do too,
Um,
because
I'm
while we're
glad they
waiting,
did this.
while we're waiting for the courts to settle, you know, that could be 2 to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. How many more applications is the zoning gonna get?
Right.
They have to battle it, so
So
I'm
now
in
if we
favor
move,
of
yeah, we don't have
moving
it.
forward.
Well, we
waiting
already
for the
have
court to-
solar,
Even
solar
if
in
it's
the in the
wrong.
town, right? We have solar on residential homes in the town.
With limitations.
Teddy has his hand up. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, Teddy, up, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Kathleen.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to know in this reporting back, and maybe
Anyway.
that data is already available. But what happens if these batteries decide not to react the way they should? What's the danger level? The reason I say that is that I was watching a show on a nuclear submarine, the Scorpion, that blew up in the mid 80s, I believe. And it was because the batteries refreshers gave up hydrogen. And the hydrogen, unless it was dissipated, sort of congealed and blew the ship up. I'd like to know what those risks are with this battery storage concept.
Okay.
And I'd be interested in knowing, you know, we currently have solar powered single family homes in town. You know, what is the protocol for those applications and their storage and so on and so forth? I think that might be helpful too, to kind of understand what's currently happening. And maybe, and I'm sure that also bubbled up in a lot of perhaps the construction of this article, right?
Not too much because those solar panels that people have, on the roofs or in their backyards sometimes, or for that matter, if people have batteries, as backups for their own houses in the event of a power outage or just in general, those are small enough, the amount they generate is small enough that they just kind of fall under the threshold for this bylaw. So again, this bylaw
I see.
this bylaw is not regulating someone who just has a little
I see.
battery in their backyard as a
Okay.
backup system or that kind of thing.
Chair, let's move on. Is that what you're gonna say?
Okay.
Yep. No, I was guessing what you were gonna
Okay,
say.
just, it's interesting little thing, that a guy in town who has electric cars,
Mhm.
when it loses power, just plugs the cars back into the house.
I've heard about
And
that,
and the batteries in the car run the house for 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's out there.
No, but I mean, to your point, we need to discuss it and we need to anticipate it and plan for it, right? Because it's a thing. It's a real.
Yeah.
I think my holding up on
If
this
you have
is,
an electric car and you lose power, you can't recharge your car, so you're
No.
trapped. But if you had the battery, you could recharge your car and
It doesn't work both
Yes,
ways.
then use your car.
I'm more concerned about whether this is a not somebody that is having a battery in their backyard for their own. I'm worried about the commercial aspect of it.
But you don't want to
Yeah,
stop the people that want to have a battery.
No, I want, but I don't want,
And you
I don't want a battery.
do that safely.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody would like to see a battery farm. We do a lot to protect what this place looks like and how it presents, and this really doesn't seem to be consistent with that.
And I don't think the Scorpion had lithium batteries.
I think that was a Jason Bourne movie, and I'm not
So
sure.
they had hydrogen batteries.
Okay,
So I guess just,
don't mess with Teddy about ships. He knows
Like-
ships.
Excuse me, you'd like to finish, Betsy?
In
Yes.
order for you guys to make a recommendation, what would be the next steps?
To know what the land identified is and whether this is what the commercial versus residential or personal use qualifiers are for this would be for what I would want.
So are we
Hey,
asking?
Betsy,
come back
hey,
at a
Betsy,
later-
just real quick. This says this bylaw is only subject to systems that exceed 100,000 kilowatt hours. So like,
it's all-
I think when you do your informational sessions, just context of what that means. That's not somebody that has a car that's charging their house and when the power goes out. We're talking about commercial grade systems that exceed that threshold. So somebody who wants to have solar on their house and a battery storage for that solar so they don't have to sell it back, it's not applicable to this, right?
Okay.
So I don't know. I just have no idea what 1,000 kilowatt hours means, right? So I think some
We have-
context of like what that is would be helpful.
And we have in the past said no to permitted uses in other cities and towns. And gotten away with it. I'm not quite, this is gonna be controversial.
Okay.
Buckle up, Matthew.
yeah, I think actually what worries me is that, the people who live in that 10% of the town in those areas, understandably, I mean, I wouldn't blame them. A lot of them understandably may object to kind of saying like, why am I being singled out, or why did you choose where I live for this? The reality is we have to choose someplace, and since Duxbury is 98% residential zone, we're
Yeah.
forced to. But it is definitely it could be a challenge.
Okay, we're not gonna take a vote now. I'm getting that sense here that we're gonna,
To that point, though, I just want to understand next steps so that I can coordinate whatever it is that you guys need. So the town's gonna have a public forum session on February 9th.
okay.
And then after that, is this group asking for Matthew to come back and answer some additional questions that were raised this evening?
Good idea.
Is
Yeah.
that what we're talking?
Yep.
Okay, so then we'll put Matthew on a future agenda at some point later in February. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, you meet on Thursday nights, obviously.
Tuesdays and
Tuesday,
Thursdays, so
Thursday.
we can coordinate what
Yeah.
works for you
Yeah.
and makes sense.
And also like if you have any questions, I certainly encourage you to come to the meeting, the planning board meeting on February 9th, because again, that'll be the public hearing for this, so that'll be a
Oh,
great
so-
chance.
It's just a regularly scheduled
Yes.
planning board meeting.
Correct,
It's not
yeah.
like a forum at the
No.
high school or something like that.
It'll
Okay.
be in, I think, the Elston room down there, so it'll be in a big room, but so it'll be very scheduled. But I mean, the purpose of it is kind of equivalent to a forum, like it's a chance for members of the public to learn about it and for the planning board to discuss it among themselves and with the public and so on.
Would you guys, just as a matter of course, this is to the finance committee, would you guys like us to just post for the February 9th meeting in the event that some of you guys may attend?
Sure.
Just in
Doesn't
case
hurt.
there's a quorum and you don't want to get
I
in
don't-
trouble?
Do we need to post it if we just show up to listen?
If we sew up this, it's
And you
like,
don't have to, no, to
Certainly
listen,
wouldn't
but
do any deliberating at it,
Well, yeah.
and take any votes.
no, just,
okay,
I
yeah,
don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Right. That way you don't have to take minutes.
There you go.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thanks for your time.
It's an eye opener. You taught us a lot about it, so.
That's an
We're a little bit brighter or more informed than we were before,
It's an interesting issue, and obviously you're all,
or confused.
you're welcome to give me a call or email if you have any more questions.
Thank you.
And as I said, definitely I encourage you to come on February 9th. That'll be a good chance to learn about it.
there you go.
thank you.
All right then.
Oh, would you like me to?
Yeah, I don't.
I forwarded the email out to the committee. They all have it.
Okay,
But
Yeah, we got it.
okay.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna
Don't forget.
explain it.
I intend to do that.
February.
I will.
Okay.
In 2 weeks. Yeah.
All right, so here we have funding for the design, engineering, permitting, and bid for the water quality improvement projects for the town's public drinking water supply. Okay. This is this the 1,000,006 one?
Yes,
Okay, so this was, it was,
Estimated cost right now is
what the bonding would be for 1,000,006.
So is this the PFAS or the, I got water main replacement, that's.
No, that's different. This isn't water
This is
main.
PFAS.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I got the right,
Article 22,
thank you.
but it wouldn't be exclusively PFAS because we were
No,
the,
this article is exclusively PFAS.
well, what they're designing, I was led to believe would also filter out.
Iron and manganese.
Yeah.
So if I
Yep.
can try to clarify, there's two capital projects for the water department that are significant in nature. One is PFAS, and iron and manganese remediation, and the other is water main replacements. The water main replacements was discussed under Article 6
Yep.
capital, where you guys voted to recommend retained earnings to address water main replacements. The PFAS discussion is not in Article 6. It is in this separate article. And when I say PFAS, I do also mean PFAS, iron, and manganese remediation for 2 wells. And Mark and Candace kind of walk me through that. So I just wanted to sort of separate the two projects, because this article is not dealing with water main replacements. It's dealing specifically with treatment at 2 well sites for iron, manganese, and PFAS.
Okie
Does
dokie.
that make sense?
So we previously set aside $1.5 million in 2 articles at 2 separate town meetings, correct?
actually $1.9 million.
A
There was,
million in 24 and 500,000 in 25 special.
and there was 400,000 left over from the original prioritization study, so
So
we
up to $1.9 million.
transferred that at annual town meeting last year. 400,000 was transferred, so it's a total of 1.9
Okay,
that's reserved for the design right now.
And how much of that is encumbered?
About, I do have that.
I did not think for a minute that you did not.
583,000.
It's encumbered.
Yes, not all spent. About 400,000 was the pilot study, and
Maybe are you encumbered by me, if you've got
we have a purchase order placed, but not all spent.
for only $500,000.
Right.
So why are we getting another 1,600,000? And I only ask that with that tone of voice because we've been listening, I mean, you can't get through a month without a pipe blowing up. And the original request to replace the water mains in town, with some of which are, I think, we might have to go to the historical commission to get permission to clean them up, was $2 million. We had this big conversation about it last year about how the pipes were really needed to be worked on. This was the request, very compelling. And now that's down to 500,000. So we've kind of, I think saying we've gutted it is maybe aggressive, but we have certainly hampered that effort. And now we're looking for another 1,600,000 for a design on
If I
something when there's money left over.
So if I might, the town started this discussion and started to undertake this endeavor regarding PFAS remediation about 2.5 years ago. And it was the desire of the Water Sewer Advisory Board, as well as the water superintendent and some other folks. It was their desire to appropriate more funding at the start of this project in order to cover the total costs. So they knew at the outset that this was going to be an extensive endeavor in order to do the design, engineering, and permitting. But we did not have the funding available at that time in order to appropriate the full $4 million for the project.
Mhm.
So what we have been doing for the last couple of years is funding pieces of it as we go along. So to your point of why are we asking to appropriate an additional 1.6? This is the final round of funding that was initially needed for the design, engineering, and permitting. And we knew about it at the beginning, but we also knew and communicated to the public that we were funding this in pieces.
So I'm not against the fact that you're researching this
Is that fair
or
enough,
doing this.
Janice?
What I'm kind of confused as to the timing. You've only appropriated a certain amount of what we've already got on the books. And yet the pipes are in bad shape now. Why wouldn't we spend money on repairing the pipes that we already have and delay this a year? Because you still have money to spend. You can still hire people to continue on this design journey. And it doesn't sound as though it would, unless you're gonna tell me that it would stop all the work on the design. Why not just delay it a year and catch up on repairing the pipes that are in terrible distress?
Well, we wouldn't meet the deadline for the contaminant levels for the deadline that we have to have the treatment in place. Otherwise, we have to take the wells offline if we're exceeding the PFAS on those wells.
Do you want to take a step back and talk about the deadline so that there's a federal EPA deadline?
Okay,
You guys want to share?
Yeah,
that?
I think this is a program that we started
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, and this is just a continuation that we're trying to, we couldn't afford to do it all at once, and we've been doing piecemeal. And I don't think we should stop now in the 11th hour.
Well, I don't want to stop it.
We started 2 years ago.
it sounds as though there's enough money to continue for a year, allowing us
No,
to do some repairs.
Well, why are they asking for this money if there's enough? There isn't enough. They need all the money to get the project designed, engineered, and permitted. So I think they need the money.
For during the next year, or
Yes.
could they wait a year?
Because we're gonna have to build 2 treatment plants. So we need to proceed and work on the first one, and so that we can move on and build the second one to meet it within the 2031 deadline.
It's best we know the
Action
design,
has-
the design and getting to a construction estimate is 2.9 million. That's what the owner's project manager has very conservatively provided to us. We just are entering in contract negotiations with the design firm and we'll have a better price within a month. They hopefully will have the contract signed with the full scope of work and fees defined by the end of February. It will be less than 1.6. I'm not sure how much.
But if
but that's
anything we've
from-
learned here in the last couple of years is the longer we wait, the more expensive it is,
Yeah.
period.
Right, so the goal is to meet the regulatory timeline, is by next annual town meeting, we'll be asking for the construction. And that will finish the first treatment plant in 2029. So we have one plant, one well that will need to be taken offline. If we could do it now, we would. So the sooner that we get depot well, which higher capacity combines with Tremont, solves the iron and manganese with Tremont. Soon as we can get that, we can put another well out of service. Which even now, we should put temporary filtration in during the summer months for that. So we're trying to avoid that. And we do want to get to a good estimate for next town meeting with the construction. So we need to start design. And we need to award the full contract with design to get to a full estimate by next March.
Ashley, did you have a question?
Yeah, has Duxbury looked into joining the Mass Water Resources Authority? I think this came up last week, like looking at the $43 million project that we are eking by the budget. I was looking into it, and there's a South Shore study group that basically like are just our neighbors to the north. And I saw that Burlington joined the MWRA for half of the $43 million estimate of our PFAS treatment. So have we considered hooking into, or going a different path altogether than creating our own?
Yeah, I looked at that when we were in Situate, and it was just so far out, and the costs were
Yeah.
super expensive. It's probably the same in the end, in the amount that you'd have to pay. Then you still have to treat the water.
Why would you have to treat the water?
It goes through a big long aqueduct, and most of the towns are required to treat it after it's delivered.
I thought that they say they don't have PFAS.
Right, but you still have other things that you need to treat it
Other
for,
things you need to do it.
and we're just so far away.
Okay,
We decided in Situate, we didn't even want
in Situate, okay.
Is that the Boston, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes pretty far out west, so I don't know why. And like I said, there's a South Shore study group where a lot of towns, I mean Hanover, are all looking into it. So it didn't seem like a terrible idea, because I mean, we could kind of be part of a union too, like everyone's facing the problem together.
Be smart.
We got it.
It always seemed to me, Ashley, that, you know, we all, the whole country, the whole globe has this issue, right? And the more that we can partner, right,
That's what,
that it just makes sense to kind of, you know, just from an economy of scale perspective, right? I don't know enough about the
MWRA.
MWRA, yeah.
Yeah,
Other than, you know, I know it's like Boston and Quincy and,
Yeah.
and so on, and, there was a lot of controversy at the time for the Mass Bay, cleanup, right?
But, and their cost, I think their cost for a gallon of water is a lot higher than ours.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it might be worth it for us to treat our own
to.
and not.
yeah, building our own facility, but like the technology is still so new, like, I hate to see 40. We can't, I don't know how.
And that's only, remember, scratching the surface.
We don't have
That's
the
only
43
for treatment for 2 of the,
That 43 million isn't only for the PFAS, it's also for the upgrade of the existing treatment plant, and we do have iron and manganese at both those wells that need to be removed anyhow.
Right.
So it's not,
No pipes though. No pipes.
So. Water enterprise funding this at all?
yes.
Okay,
Yes, so the funding source for this right now is earmarked as utilizing retained earnings. And so the water department had $2.7 million certified this year for water retained earnings. And bear in mind that we introduced, you know, rate increases
Right.
last March that
Right,
went
we
into
did.
effect. And the plan was to have a 3-year successive fee hearing for rate increases in order to set our rates appropriately to be able to finance these large scale expensive projects.
I might be drilling a well. Already did.
I'm ready to.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah.
Move it.
I move we approve Article 22 as submitted or presented.
Second.
Mark,
I,
All those in, okay, Teddy? You're on mute, Teddy.
yes,
Al?
Aye.
KRI.
Brenda,
Ashley, I.
That's AI.
Chapman,
I don't know how we're gonna pay for it.
one thing she does.
What would you do if you didn't spend it? What would you do with that $1 billion? You just wouldn't spend it.
No, I think that we should work on the pipes that we've got blown up over town.
Replacing water mains.
I think that there's quite a
That's for
backlog
sure.
in existing pipes that are,
I think they're two different projects. That's
yeah,
the way I'm gonna think about it.
Me too.
okay.
Thank you.
And we will see you again next year.
all right, looking forward to
Is
it.
that a threat or a promise?
No, well, I said it last year that I felt that instead of coming for a big number, that I didn't want people perceiving that we're just coming and asking for little chunks, so we wanted to be upfront.
Yep.
Hopefully, the
Yeah.
43 million is conservative too, so,
We knew you were coming.
okay.
Well, and again, I think that this is continuing to evolve, right?
Yep.
So,
Hopefully there'll be some money for us.
well, there'll be other sources for the funds other than water enterprise and the taxpayers' dollars.
The SRF funding could provide interest-free loans, but we will apply again.
If we qualify, and we did not qualify in the last round.
But we didn't qualify because the design wasn't initiated, so now that we're in a good
Initiated.
position,
Yeah.
so we're,
Closer to that.
it depends on the competitors and the competition for the funds, but we are ahead of most other towns.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you guys get a vote on that? I'm sorry, I missed.
Yes, we did.
Yep, 8-0.
Okay.
Gotta love your water.
I do love the water. I do. I mean, that was always the big selling point in towns, that we had the best water.
Yeah,
Proposed addition to the
Are you,
PowerPoint.
I'm sorry, are you guys all set with Mark and Candace?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
No more questions about the water main or?
Uh,
No.
Well, no, I think you know, about the water.
So here's what happened, because you guys had raised a lot of questions regarding the water main projects at your last meeting.
Yep.
And I sent all of those questions to Mark and Candace in order for them to prepare if you guys needed some additional information regarding what are the priorities of the water main projects, because Mark has a master plan that he is working with in conjunction with the Water Sewer Advisory Board. And they're prioritizing those items that had been identified in their master plan as projects that need to be addressed. He does have a water main replacement schedule and priority list.
Oh, please don't think that I don't think you're paying attention to it. That isn't it. It's just money that
Yeah.
you need in order to move ahead at a faster pace. I understand that I mean, the last guy in town that wants to be standing in a puddle with water shooting up in the air is you.
And we have been working on it. We've got the plans completed for St. George. And
Yep.
they're working on the plans for Hall's Corner now, so,
Are those your trouble spots?
yes, yeah.
Those are the ones you think?
And
would-
how old are those pipes?
1914, 1940,
Yeah,
Oh, they're new.
Yeah.
we don't have any more lead ones, do we?
no.
We just
no,
took the
no
plastic off
services
of those.
line in town.
Because it was, not that long ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was exciting.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I mean, and what do you do if something does blow up and you have to
Just have to fix it.
just patch, you wouldn't,
fix
We do a repair. It'll hold up.
right, in a bad old pipe, you just patch it.
Yeah.
Heavy
but then-
duty Band-Aid.
You know, there's other problems and, like, there's two mains on St. George Street.
Yeah,
So we had to pull water from the new main into the old main to feed the high school. So whenever we're flushing or have a problem, all their toilets are going crazy and they don't have enough water to use. So we'd like to eliminate the old main and just have one main. You should only have one main on every street.
Yep.
And you also want to replace the mains if you're gonna be paving the road. If you know there's a 1940 water main
That's the
and
time
you,
to do
and
it.
you want to pave the road, it's on the paving plan.
Yeah.
You want to address the main first and then pave the road.
but to be perfectly clear, you don't have enough money to do it as quickly as would be good
Right,
practice.
right. But I haven't gotten the plans done, so we won't,
But
we'll be ready to go when we do get the funding.
if the bidding for this PFAS project comes in under budget, then that additional funding could potentially, and if it happens, if we know before town meeting.
Yep.
We may be able to utilize that surplus from this for the water mains and be able to have sufficient funding to address the St. George project.
Yeah. that'd
Right,
be
so that
great.
would be great.
We've
Yeah.
got, 6
Originally, we
weeks.
thought we didn't have enough for St. George, so we were looking, instead of the 400,000, we're looking to up that by another 200,000. So we're trying to find the right balance by priority of water main replacements too.
We're working the best we can. So cross your fingers that we get positive results.
And I was not saying you shouldn't do the study. I just thought maybe we could defer the study for a year, use the money we've already appropriated and be able to get ahead, get some more work done on the water mains that are as fragile as they are. But it sounds as though that is not anything that could,
We will know in a month whether that 1.6 can be reduced.
well, let us know. We'd be real happy to revote this. No, I suppose we wouldn't have to because the number's not in it.
Right.
The numbers
The
on
number
it,
won't
no,
be in the
but
motion.
we'll discuss it, but what it would then trigger is that we come back and ask you to revote Article 6
Right,
because the water capital for water main replacements is included in Article 6.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you posted on it.
Rainey.
I'll keep you posted on that and, you know, see what other additional action we need to take.
okay,
Okay?
thank you for coming in.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Peter. Betsy, were you able to get in touch with anybody from the local historic district? The next one, they were unable to come to this meeting, but I think you had a very open question. I think you had to address.
Good night.
No, I think the conversation that we had is that, this property, if it is a privately owned, if it's a residence and somebody has decided that they would like to take their residence and put it in the historic district, I feel that they should be able to do that. I only object to these things when it's town land or town.
Right.
And, I believe that this property is privately owned.
It is.
And as long as it's privately owned, I think we've done this for, you know, the last, I don't know how many years, and allowed people to do with their own property what they choose to do. If they choose to restrict it, then that's up to them. Does anybody else have any questions on that or feel any different? No.
No, but I look at the map and there's 3 parcels shaded. I'm not sure. Is it just the
Those are
one
the
parcel?
existing. Those are the existing, and the dash one is the
Oh,
addition.
thank you. Good catch there. Thank you
But
very much.
why does somebody want to put their house in the historical district?
To retain, it limits what can happen to it in the future. To, it then adds, on their deed, limitations as to what. So you're not gonna take a house built in 1800, knock it down and put up an A-frame,
It's totally voluntary, by the way.
So see,
huh?
Mark, see the,
It's totally
you
voluntary.
you don't have this.
I have it.
Oh, good. So the lot just to the east of the slash lot, the one that's proposed, is the one they just took that cape down on and put up a McMansion or whatever.
A large property, yep, and I think people wanna keep some of these older homes, the historic homes, and keep them, for future generations, that's their point.
Retain the architectural integrity of the antiques.
I move the finance committee approves Article 23 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, Teddy, Al,
Aye.
Yeah,
Brenda,
Ashley, I.
that's the aye,
Kathleen, I.
okay?
No, this needs-
8 zeros.
So that concludes the invited guests that we scheduled to be here this evening, but I know we still have Article 24 and 25 that you have not voted. Are you guys able to vote 24, which is a citizen's petition, based on what you see here, or do we need to invite somebody to discuss this?
I'm not at all sure why.
Is there any context of why they're presenting this?
Just the explanation that's on the warrant.
Yeah, the gentleman came before the, he went before the select board a couple of times. And they referred him back to the highway safety committee. And I think the highway safety committee sent him back to the board. This is actually a board level decision, not a town meeting decision. And council has already opined that it would simply be a sense of the meeting article. So anything that the town meeting did wouldn't be binding anyways. And it's only for a certain portion of the road, the intersection over by Sean Dolan.
139.
Fox's Corner.
Fox's
Yeah,
Corner.
Fox's Corner. Thank you. So it'd just be for that area.
So
So you can-
so you go
That's a
from
statement.
30 down to 25, then back up to 30 for 900 feet.
Yes, you
Doesn't
can,
make any sense.
you have some options. You can take no action, you can refer to town meeting,
Vote against it,
you can vote, definitely postpone it, you have all kinds of things.
So I'm gonna move in favor of it, and we're all gonna vote against it.
My sense is that's what's going to happen, because I'm dying to see some golf carts on three
You
A.
can move it in the affirmative, we'll just vote.
Right.
No. It's a speed limit thing. It's
It's not that loaded either with houses. It's not that popular.
no. But I mean, I think that it would, yeah, it would open the door to golf carts being legal on that section too.
Okay, so I move we approve Article 24 as presented.
Second.
Mark,
Nay.
Teddy,
Nay.
Al,
No.
JR, no.
Brendo.
Actually, no.
Betsy, no.
Kathleen, no.
So that was 080.
Yep.
And the next one is the moratorium article. Our friend Mary. Not this one. The other Mary.
It's Mary.
Okay,
Something better.
this is an article, and it's become almost an annual
Right,
thing.
so what was the discussion? Oh, a decision was made to move on to another article.
No, we were saying that Mary, that's what we were saying, not move on.
Oh,
We were
okay,
saying,
sorry, I thought you were
Mary
saying
Ann
you moved on.
This is Mary Lynn,
26.
proposed moratorium on construction, and this is just something that we vote and send to the state and say, we don't want you to allow any more, whatever.
I mean, I could argue this in the, against this proposal for 2 days if you want, but
Yeah.
that's why I can vote. So, I mean, I think technology's come a long way in 50 years, and nuclear is one of the only clean fuel sources we have. And it's going to be a big part of the future, no matter if we like it or not. So
Right.
I'm a huge believer in nuclear.
I hear you. I get it.
So it scares me about the battery storage is we're gonna have a little nuclear plant sitting there in our yard producing electricity. It's stored. Can't do it if you don't have a battery.
Right. I'm just looking at you like you're crazy. No, that you're saying.
You watch those English movies. I
Yes.
do that.
Bridget. All right,
Forget the boats.
would you like someone to come in to present this? Or nuclear advisory
No,
committee to come
we
in?
get it, we know what.
We know what they're doing.
I've
All
been
right,
listening
so-
to this for 30 years.
Can we have a motion, please?
JR.
I move the finance committee approves Article 25 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, oh, I have to do it at individual, sorry about that. Mark,
Nay.
okay, Teddy,
No.
Al,
No.
JR,
No?
Brendo.
Actually, no.
Betsy, no.
Kathleen, yes.
Oh, there you go.
Hey,
Who says we
17.
rubber stamp?
zero.
That's good.
170.
And then the rest are CPC.
Yeah, CPC is going to be coming in on the third, with the exception of the King Caesar House wallpaper. They, the Rural Historical Society has their annual meeting on the third, and they cannot reschedule, so they've asked if they could come in to present that article on the fifth, and didn't see any reason why not.
I agree completely.
So we're gonna, but all the other CPC articles will be on the third.
So do we have any other articles that require us to organize somebody to come in? Or are we in real good shape here?
I think we're in good shape. I think there's gonna be some that are gonna IP that we voted on, that we're gonna have to revote just to IP it or see if it's withdrawn or whatever, but
Okay, but there's no other articles that are open that are awaiting.
Cemetery extension.
We did that tonight. I'm sorry.
We did it.
800
Walker's here.
support.
did we have anything that was open on the Article 6? No?
We not, but I will just draw your attention, when Article 6 was compiled for the warrant, It included line 17 in error, the funding for the PFAS. So the article has, the typographical error has been cleared up because that's the funding that we just discussed for Article 22.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm looking here, we did. We did 2, 3,
You changed the article, Mary?
yes, we're gonna discuss it next.
and then, Jeannie, does Jeannie have to come back for anything?
We do still have to do Article 4.
Yep,
We're still in the process of collective bargaining and calculations. So that one is still open.
Okay, that was, I knew there was one
What about 8, the union contracts?
That is still open.
still open.
Yeah, you have 4, 8.
11, I have 11.
11, that's 11.
Delete, it's
No,
I,
that's gonna be withdrawn.
We struck it.
Oh,
You'll get a new version next week.
that's gonna be deleted.
That was
17 and 18,
What are the
17 is, bylaw changes for town meeting date.
so that's being withdrawn, yeah?
And and the town election.
Oh.
So those are withdrawn.
You held on battery, you said you held on it, right?
They held on that because
Okay.
they need more info.
That's fine.
Um,
It's in great shape.
Did we vote the animal control?
Yeah.
We did, okay.
Dog license,
Yeah.
and then we did 20. Article 13, we did. I think I think that we have to get, at some point, get Jeannie back in. And then,
4 and 8
and we,
is essentially,
yep. So,
and we're gonna answer questions on 5B this evening.
so
We're good.
certainly,
So then the next thing up, I'm
okay,
sorry,
nope, you
Is,
go ahead, you do you.
will be the special town meeting warrant. So tonight's Thursday. You guys are scheduled next week to do CPC on the 3rd.
Right.
Do we think we'll have the special for the 5th?
Sure,
Thursday?
Of course you will.
It's not
When do you
in
want?
follow
Tell me
week.
that's when we'll have it.
Well, that we
It's
can,
it's pretty much done, yeah.
because
Okay,
if we don't have it, let me know, because
yeah,
there's no way we're coming in here to meet just to talk about wallpaper.
exactly. That's why I'm asking. I'm just trying to organize
Well.
your dates.
Oh, the wallpaper's gorgeous,
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay, all right, so we're in really good shape.
All right, so let's circle back to the ballot questions. And, you know, when that, sorry,
Not here.
No, it's-
Time for Bonzo?
no, it's one of my special children, so that's fine. Bye later, Kate. We had questions about the override amount and kind of went around and decided that we would be working on that and come back this week and further discuss it. In the middle of it, you kind of hit some of the same questions from the select board. And I think you've had a week to work through this and hear the concerns that we had and that the select board had. So, you know, any changes that you'd like to float here, or
Yes.
what's the numbers looking like now?
Yes, thank you. Mary just emailed to you what I just handed you, but for the folks on TV.
Yeah, Mark, Al, and Teddy, if you could look at your email, I just sent an email out to you about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I've got it open.
Okay, great, that's the handout that we're looking at.
Yeah, it's a 6-page document, so I'm just gonna walk you through it. So the first 3 pages are actually copies of page 24, 25, and 26. In the annual town meeting warrant, it's the Article 5B contingency budget, which you have already reviewed and approved. The questions stemmed from page 3, see it up in the top right corner, the number 3, regarding the excess levy capacity in year 1. More specifically, the number of $906,535. You're curious as to how we derived that number. Well, the select board was curious as well. You may have seen in the paper, it was
Our article.
there was a going back and forth. So what I did was convene my brain trust. And we met to discuss this. And we came up with an idea in terms of what excess levy capacity should be or could be. But I wanted to float a couple of ideas by you folks for proceeding. So if you could turn to page 4, I want to show you something.
While we go into page 4, I think that one of the things that seems evident is that even though we're all been doing this a couple of years, we are having problems with defining terms and the vocabulary involved because they are levy limit, levy ceiling. There's a whole bunch of different things in it, and I believe that that was one of our huge stumbling blocks last year. I think it was when I was listening to the select board meeting, the selectmen were using the terms inappropriately, and when they were asking questions, but they were being answered in the same language because that's what we do, right? So if they said levy limit when they should have said levy ceiling, you were answering them with the words levy limit. So I think that there is confusion amongst the people that should know, right? The way it was covered in the press, that was kind of reflected in that article as well. I went through, I made a glossary of all those terms, and I'm gonna send that out to everybody. I took it from the
Division of Local Services.
Division of Local Services, sorry, DLS. And so that we will have that so that we're all speaking the same language. And I think that that is one of the biggest problems that we've had. People don't understand what excess levy capacity is.
Well, I think if I might make a suggestion, because I was very confused by the article in the Clipper yesterday about the numbers don't sync up was, I think, the headline, which kind of confused me a little bit.
Well, that was ridiculous, but yeah.
Well, it was confusing. The headline was confusing because it was more, as you said, Betsy, as to the mechanics and the language that we're using to try to explain what it is that we're trying to achieve here and what these numbers really mean. It would be, I think, helpful if, once we have the definitions, to share that, maybe via the Clipper, if we could get a way to get out to the public some definitions of what it is that we're talking about to clarify that the numbers do indeed sync. And here's what they're comprised of. I think that's just a responsibility that we would have to our community so that everybody's on the same page when they come to town meeting and when they go to the ballot box.
I had asked Nancy that it's a, 2 pages. And I asked if we could print it out and leave it in all the information at town meeting, so that as people are having these conversations, they can refer to it and understand exactly what we're communicating to them. And Rainey seemed to be okay with that. And so I think we're going to do that. I have never, ever pretended to be a good scribe. So as I send this out, I absolutely took the language from DLS, but if you feel as though there's a way to improve it, to make it even clearer or take some out, please, let me know so that I can let Nancy know what the actual verbiage is. But I do think it's important that we all start really being exact in our terms.
Well, what about the idea of going back to the Clipper and sharing that information maybe more town-wide, as opposed to not everybody will pick it up at the town meeting or understand what it means, just that we have something that people can consume, right? That is more public and kind of.
I can't control what they'll print. I'll be happy to send it to the editor.
But that opportunity will probably afford itself on Wednesday because the board will be meeting here, not in this room, but downstairs in the Ellison room. For the next board meeting.
Okay.
We moved it from Monday to Wednesday and moved it from town hall to here because we're not sure what the weather situation is going to be.
I think it makes sense if we obviously we can't tell the Clipper what to print,
Right.
but if it comes up in such a way that it sparks interest and it might help to inform.
Yeah.
Right, better inform the article that was written on Wednesday.
I'll make sure I provide the board's packet as well.
Thank you.
By the way, you're all cordially invited. We'll be posting in case you all want to come.
I don't know if we'll be posted, if we have time to post. Oh, if it's Wednesday, yeah, we're good, post it.
It won't be a joint meeting, but it'll be a meeting.
Yep, so that'd be great. So you can, if you would do that, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so let me walk you through here. So if you take a look at page 4. what we did, or what Mary did, was put together a 20-year history of our excess levy capacity. So it goes span from 2007 all the way to 2026. And as you look at it, go down to the bottom, and you'll see what the 20-year average is. And if you look in the excess levy capacity where it says option 2, that third column, down at the bottom, the 20-year average of excess levy capacity is $362,882. Now, why are we talking about excess levy capacity in the first place? In layman's terms, that's the sustainability factor for the budget, meaning it's sort of the headroom, if you will, that would get us perhaps from not just having to do an override this year, but maybe stave off the need for an override in a subsequent year or two. So we were thinking, how can we prevent having to have an override year after year after year? So that was sort of the rationale. When you look at that column, option 2, you'll notice that I highlighted a number in blue of $1.7 million. That's called SOA funding.
Yeah.
If you flip the page to page 5, you will see what that means. That's the Massachusetts Student Opportunity Act.
One time.
Yeah, so this is important information. It was a one-time bump that occurred as a result of this new law being passed, which was passed in 2019, but it didn't really come into play in terms of Duxbury's excess levy capacity until FY23. That's the reason for the bump, our 20-year average. So I took a look at that and I said, all right, so if we were to use those figures, those 20 figures in that option 2 column, the average would be $362,882. It didn't seem fair to have that spike in there. So what I did is in the last column where it says option 3, I took that number out and the 20-year average then drops to $287,688. So either one of those two could be a possible option if in fact you wanted to build in excess levy capacity.
Per year. That would only be for 1 year.
Yeah.
Maybe, but if you,
It depends on what,
what the need is. Sorry, go ahead.
it depends
Yeah.
on what number we determine would be appropriate and whether that number represents 1 year's worth of
Yeah, perhaps I said it wrong.
or 2.
Per year would sound like we're gonna do that every year. That would just be enough excess levy capacity as we've had on average for 1 year.
Yeah, that is a correct statement.
I said it wrong before.
Okay.
So, Randy, the 2024 769 and 298, is that ARPA money?
No.
This is all
Were
excess
you-
levy
Okay.
capacity.
So
Delayed so.
you've got, on line 18, 2024, $769,298, which seems to be a bit of a bump as well.
Yeah, there's another one up there on line 5.
Yeah, 722 and some change.
And then in line 4, it really hits the skids.
That's why you take 20 years.
Yeah, because if I were to use it, the 3-year average is a wildly different number.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you with my comment. Is that, continue with your rationale?
Yeah, now I'm gonna get you to
Okay.
the question for the committee. On page 6, which is the last page of this, there's 4 different options that you might want to consider. What I did was show you in the first line, it says option 1, 2, 3, and 4. The second line is the total override amount that's in the warrant, which is the first 3 pages that you just looked at. And the total override amount right now is $1,891,916. If in fact we wanted to build in excess levy capacity, there's a few scenarios. So the first option would be 0, just keep the number as it is. So the total override amount would be $1,008,000. And what I also wanted to show you this because it's important, because people say, well, wow, what's this override going to cost me? And I plugged in what the average assessed value is and the average single family tax bill. So the tax bill impact on option 1 would be $325 per household. Take a look at option 2.
Annually.
Annually, yes, annually. Take a look at option 2. And you use that $362,000 amount, which is including that 1.7 million that we just talked about from the SOA that I didn't think was right to keep in there. That would make the total override 2.2 million, which would cost $390,000 annually.
$390.
Yeah, $390 annually on the tax bill. Taking a look at option 3, where now we're using the 19-year average, we're taking out the $1.7 million. So that would make the override $2,179,604 for a total tax bill impact of $377 per household per year. And then a fourth option, I just rounded down. I just went to $250,000 to see what $250,000 looks like. That would make the total override amount $2,141,916, which would make your average tax bill impact $364 a year. So I present those different ideas to you. In speaking with the board and watching the meeting last Monday, the range, there are some who would advocate for nothing, just keep the $1.8 million and leave it at that, and we'll see how things go. It's going to be a different year next year. We've got different revenue sources that we haven't been able to count on before, and sticker fees and a whole host of other things. So that's certainly, I think the option 2, I don't think that's the best way to go, because it's adding a year in there that has a kind of a wild card with that $1.7 million for the SOA funding. Year 3, there is a rationale there using the 19-year average, and year 4, of course, is just a little bit less than that to show you $250,000.
So
What do you think, Pat, you want to do?
$100 million budget.
Yeah.
Then that seems a little like,
Not average though. When you look at what the 20-year average is. You know, there's some years where it's
so.
under $500,000, there's $250,000, $750,000.
Yeah, I get it. I get the rationale behind it. But we were building the 900,000 and the 906,535, which was initially proposed.
Yeah.
In your budget range. That was a number that I found on my whole head, and you saw me get the rationale behind it. That was, that number was derived for 3-year sustainability. So we wouldn't be coming back to the town to ask for additional override, right? And it just seems a large reduction from the 906 to these new numbers based on the excess levy. And the number on the excess levy, these numbers, this 20-year look back, we didn't have $100 million budget on each of those years. They were 72 million, 75 million. Right, and we're now building to 100 million. This is where we are today. And so I guess my question is that by taking this different approach, right, and using the excess levy numbers, is that a reasonable hedge against what we may anticipate having at our disposal should we encounter large, a substantial increase to the need? Is really my question. Do you see where I'm going?
You're essentially asking, does that give us enough flexibility for future
That is
years?
correct.
And the answer is more than likely not. Because of a couple of things. We're continuing to see as people see in their homes, price increases and inflation, continue to still be a very real challenge. Cost of utilities is a driving factor for us,
Goods
right?
and services.
And so in all likelihood, that's probably not the desired financial flexibility. However, within the 5B budget, we are including things and asking the community to support some additional expenditures in certain areas in order to benefit the organization and the community as a whole. So So in other words, the 5B budget does provide some advantage to the community. And it will, should we have limited financial flexibility in terms of excess levy capacity, it's going to continue to make us make tough decisions year over year. It is not going to allow us the opportunity for me to come to finance committee meetings and listen to this group challenge us and say, why isn't that in the operating budget? That's an operating item, right? We hear that a lot. We're not going to be able to solve that problem for a period of time when we have the limited flexibility that we're talking about. So we're going to continue to have those same conversations. And so I hear you, Kathleen, but we also want to make sure that we are being sensitive and weighing carefully the impact on the community and what we're asking of the community.
I understand that, and I understand that we're looking at a failed override last year because the number was not, it was too big, right? It was too big. So it was not palatable to 197 of our citizenry. I'm cautioning that I hear what you're saying, Mary. It's what will the town, what is the town's appetite, right, for the number? But I also want to be very careful to say that does not address the issues that we face today, right? And it's kicking the can down the road. But that is something that I'm going to vote for, right? At town meeting and at the ballot box. Yeah, I understand the rationale. I just don't think that the.
I hear you. And you know, we're sort of, it's a striking the right balance between what our recommendation, our ideal recommendation would be versus the impact to the community and knowing that we're not going to be solving all of our problems in the short term. That we've got work to do. And when we know that we are going to be having these tough conversations for many years, we have a long laundry list of capital items. We have a long laundry list of operating budget needs. And those are not problems that get solved overnight.
And it's not, I guess what I'm suggesting, if we're taking a 3-year look at, for a sustainability, right? Are we just going to continue to get behind?
We're not taking a 3-year look at sustainability. This eliminates that as one of the goals.
Potentially, depending on
what
options.
But I think that it's been loud and clear from the community that they want to weigh in. They want to have a voice in these decisions year to year, and we have to respect that.
I'm not suggesting that is what I'm implying.
No, I know what you're saying,
what
but
I'm
let's
saying is
recognize that it's not enough.
Let's recognize that it's not enough, and that is really the bottom line here, and it is kicking the can down the road. So, but that's up to the voters,
right?
What it does do though, even if you were to go with 0, what the 5B budget does do is it adds 5.5 positions that are critical, because in the board's budget message, we were only to request critical staffing or expenses that weren't fully funded in prior years. Critical staffing in this case, in the way we've all agreed upon, is 2 additional firefighters, 2 additional police officers, 1 beach ops assistant director, and a half-time custodian for the new DPW facility. Those are critical. Remember, last year, we asked for 4 firefighters, 4 and 2?
4 and 2.
4
2 police officers.
Yeah, 4 firefighters and 2 police officers. We had to make cuts. The voters said, we're gonna go use stabilization because we believe in that. And these are still important factors to consider if the voters, in fact, do decide to support the override. those things will be addressed. We may need additional staff for the fire and police down the road, but it will certainly help them, at least in the short term, for the next year or so, with their concerns, and absolutely with the beach operations, because having a one-man band down there is nuts.
I think it is, what 5B is absolutely consistent with what the select board gave you as their
Right.
priorities
Yeah.
and what they wanted this budget to look like. You did it.
Mhm.
You nailed that. Excess levy capacity is something that does not. I don't think that you're going to get the public to buy into the fact that they don't understand it. Even if they do understand it, they'd rather be asked as opposed to give that line of credit for us to act without asking them, other than, and no matter how many times you tell them, we are gonna ask you, because even though it's excess levy capacity, only town meeting can approve the budget for the next year.
But that,
But they don't, that's
there's a big disconnect.
huge.
If you're not constantly
Yeah.
talking about these types of things, it's not a familiar conversation.
Right.
And so there is going to be, for the voters, a big disconnect between the number that they see on the ballot versus the number that they see in the warrant booklet that's being voted. To your point.
And I think so. Why don't we do this?
Hold on one second.
Oh.
One more point.
I'm sorry.
Mary and I have talked about these 4 options. We can live with any of them, including option 1, which is to have no.
Well, I think that's irresponsible. I don't know.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you also gotta ask yourself, what's gonna sell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's gonna
exactly.
sell?
I think if you wanna sell something and you wanna get it done, then you stick with the 1.89.
Really, you don't think that saying for 20 years, this is our average of what we've carried to handle extraordinary
I don't
circumstances?
think you're gonna be able to sell it. I think
Really?
there's enough mistrust in government, maybe not just our government, but in government in total, that we beat that 5B to death. And we know that that's solid, we need it, and we want it. We don't know what the $906,000 is gonna buy us,
Or 300.
or
The
whatever,
900 seems to be off the table.
whatever that figure is.
Okay.
It's another dollar. And I think we should I'm gonna show restraint, and I would vote for the 1.891.
Even though you've got $100 million corporation company, and now you're gonna go into excess levy capacity, for unforeseen utilities, health insurance, something that has to be of $26,000. That is, in my mind,
Well, if
You have
in
that.
fact
Ashley's.
something like
Oh,
that
I'm
came
sorry,
up,
Ashley,
we'd
I
have
can't see
we'd have a
this.
special
You better
town
whack.
meeting. We'd have a special town meeting and have to go raise and appropriate the money to do it.
From where?
Well, that's what would have to be decided at that meeting. You'd have to
It
go
would
back and
only
ask for
have to
override
be from
then we'd have to
stabilization.
have an election.
Yeah.
It depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the critical part of the argument. As we look at this, we politically want it to pass, because we know A and B, we need
Yeah.
to keep the town whole.
Yep.
And that's a given, and we're all smarting from last year. But I think the right decision is to add some additional capacity. I think that's what we should do as people that are concerned about the health and wellness of the town of Duxbury. It gives us room, like any household knows, that they have not just a checking account, but they have a savings account, and maybe a 401k or whatever their excess savings are, but they have some extra capacity. I mean, there are some people that live paycheck to paycheck,
I
but
think there are a lot of people that lay, and a lot of people don't have the bank account, and a lot of people owe some money.
well, we are in a position where we can recommend to our citizens that they do that.
Yeah.
Collectively. But having said that, I'm with you on one. I want it done. I want A and B. And I think it's important that we do that.
Yeah.
And
I
think the issues that we may end up facing may convince the citizens that we were wrong in not doing this extra capacity. And maybe it'll prove them right. But I think we have to do it this time. I'd rather get it passed than not. There's no guarantee that it'll still pass, because if people are opposed to the 1.8. But I'm with you. And I would support that. It's not our vote. We can vote it, but we know the only people that can really put this on the ballot is the selectmen.
Ashton, you had something you wanted to say?
How did, with the failed override, how did we still have 300,000 in 2026? I guess that's where like, I have limitations of understanding even the excess capacity for FY 26.
Yeah, so that excess capacity, so you know that we are in the process of negotiations for collective bargaining.
Okay,
So I had to set aside something
yeah,
in order to put them
There.
so tight. So then, but then I think this answer the
Can I give you this dish?
task, we'd have 26K for excess capacity, which is basically nothing. Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. I know I voiced a lot of concern about the 900K when it first came up in the meeting. Now I'm a bit surprised because I had highlighted 3. Like I think 3 is very explainable now to say, here's our 20-year average. I think it also, if the town, someone wants to say, they can't do this at the town meeting, they can't say, they could say, oh, let's do the 1.8. Someone can throw it out there and they can vote on that. They can't bring it down.
They can bring it down, but so the decision that needs to be made.
Yeah.
Is going to affect what's printed on the ballot.
Okay,
And so that can't, and so if the ballot is printed at 1.8.
Yeah.
Town meeting cannot support anything more than that.
okay.
Okay,
But also, isn't the select board is the one that picks the number?
correct,
So,
correct. But so we're asking the finance committee for this discussion.
To provide them some guidance.
And some guidance and some recommendations, but the select board absolutely.
And they'll
will
be
have the
talking
same.
about this on Wednesday.
but town meeting, 2 weeks before that election, can't change those numbers. The select
No.
board is the one that
Can
can
you
change.
take down the chart?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, once the ballot question is printed, it's printed. That's it.
Yeah, and then, but that isn't a town meeting vote. That is the select board picks the amount of the.
Yeah, that was something else.
Yeah, the ballot question. Mark, did you want to weigh in on this? I'd like to hear from everybody on this. If I could. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I did have a question earlier. I think it's irrelevant at this point. But I'll ask it anyways, because maybe who knows if it is or not. Historically, the excess levy, especially since the Student Opportunity Fund was funded via other means. Going forward, it seems like the excess levy is going to be funded via real estate taxes. Is that a fair assessment?
So excess levy capacity is not something that's funded. Excess levy capacity is the difference between the amount that the town could raise in taxes versus the amount that we actually do raise in taxes. So the amount we do based on the budget.
So the point of highlighting the student opportunity funding, and maybe I wasn't familiar when that happened, that allowed the town to increase real estate taxes to that certain amount. Like what's the point in highlighting that? It seemed like that was a different funding source allowing the town to levy higher taxes. That has now been burnt through because that was 3 or 4 years ago. There's nothing remaining. And
Exact, Mark, yeah, it's the exact opposite of what you're saying. So what happened was the state provided additional funding to all communities. That funding source that they provided was for the Student Opportunity Act. So because the community received an influx in state aid, so remember state aid is one of our funding sources, that's where it came in. So they provided additional state aid, which meant that we did not levy as much in taxes.
Creating a capacity.
Okay.
Like,
okay, that makes sense. Thank you very much.
And the reason I highlighted it is because it was so far off from what our average is. When you look at all those figures, it was throwing the whole thing out of whack, and I didn't think it was fair to include it because it kind of artificially inflated it.
Yeah.
Right.
So in those years, as Mary is saying, property taxes didn't go up 2.5%. They may have gone up 2.2%, and that delta was your excess capacity.
Yes, exactly right. Teddy?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say, I think Rainey and Marion has done a brilliant job on trying to make the best of what is not a very good situation for us. Given that, and based on last year, I don't think people are going to understand, nor do they have the capacity to understand it by the time we have to vote on this. I think we will, and once again, I'm being negative, we're going to get our doors beaten in again. Because once they see, oh, here's a little fund on the side, and that's going to be an increase in taxes, they're going to conflate the two, and that will be the end of it. We will lose again because there's enough of a vocal group who go out and vote that will lose probably the same percentage that we did last year. I think we ought to drop the 906, my own feeling, and go with it as thin as it's going to be. And hopefully people get some understanding that we have to increase our taxes in order to survive.
Even if that means coming back for another override next year.
Absolutely.
It's in the law.
Yeah.
It's available.
Yep. Al?
Oh, sorry.
Nope. Al?
This, great work on Mary and Randy's part, but you pick 20, you could have picked 30 years, you could have picked 40 years. And what it does, it's a smoothing operation. And it's going to be a credibility situation. I kind of lean into what Ted is saying. Most people will look at this as like either a separate fund or the ability to raise taxes every year. It's going to be really, really tough sell. We talk amongst ourselves a lot with the verbiage of municipal law and tax levy, et cetera. But there's really, I'm at a loss to come up with a clear explanation to somebody that says levy capacity doesn't mean you have the cash and it's available to spend. What it means is that the town has the capacity, if it so chooses, to adjust the tax rate on property, which is mostly residential. And therein lies the rub. So whether you pick the 1.8 million or any of the other numbers on that page 6, which I'm looking at, I'm okay with all those numbers. The question is going to be, and to me, it's really a crapshoot. What's the best that we can come up with, and how do we present it? Because there's still going to be a lot of pushback in this town. And there's going to be a perception that, we really haven't done our homework. We're trying to feather the nest of people in the town or town workers, et cetera. So this is really difficult. I wish I had a solution to propose, and I don't.
I think this gives us an
Amen.
opportunity to focus on the 5B contents
Absolutely.
and not anything beyond that. It's not, for many of us, the most ideal situation, but I think it is the most sensible right now, given all of the challenges that have been articulated by this group.
So you're proposing option 1?
Sure.
Yep.
Let me give you a means of comparison, just so you can know where we were last year and this year. This is important because people are going to want to know, what did you do? Did you hear what we said? And I think the answer is going to be yes. Last year, we asked for $5.8 million in override. We go with the 0 option. We're asking for $1.8 million. That's a $3.9 million difference. We heard that part. It was too expensive. Last year, we wanted to restore 12 positions that were going to be laid off. This time around, we're cutting that to 1/3. We only want to restore half. Last year, we wanted to add 11 new positions. This year, we only want to add 5.5, all of which are mission critical and theoretically will pay for themselves.
Are you
Be
looking
right.
at the schools and homes? You do that?
Or no, I'm talking about just the town side.
Oh, just town side?
But the override dollar amount was for everybody.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, those position numbers do not include school positions.
okay.
That's correct.
So Rainey, just, as we roll back to last year, the ask of the department heads were, what is it that you really need in order to run your departments? And you know, essentially, not, we didn't ask them to maximize it. We said, what, almost like the bare minimum, right? What is it that you really need? And they came back and they told us.
Yep.
And that rested on that 1 point or the 5 point, whatever, 7 or 5.6, right?
5.8.
5.8, thank you. So now we're saying, well, we couldn't sell that. And now we're gonna go to this perhaps option 1, right, which is what our 5B is without anything, any flexibility, right? Which would allow us 26,000 potential $26,000 excess on a $100 million budget, which I think is not a wise thing fiscally to do. And if that, and I'm trying to think of it in the regard of explaining to the public that if we have an increase in health insurance, if we have an increase in personnel needs, if we have whatever it might be, right? We are very limited in where we can get that revenue or that funding from. And mostly it's stabilization, which is our piggy bank, right? And I think that if we don't build something into that 1.8, it leaves us very vulnerable. I would be more than accommodating to the 20-year history, the average 20-year history of the excess number to ensure that we were not left with very little flexibility in a contingency situation.
And what I'm hearing is exactly what I anticipated hearing, is that there are differences of opinion.
Sure.
And I think that's fair.
I think that the biggest point is, you know, we talk about the, you know, we, the town, we assign this, you know, this identity to who's going to control how much taxation there's going to be. There is no it is only the community.
Yeah.
The community gets the final say. And if they don't want to, if we tell them next year, hey, guess what? Electricity went up 20% and we need to add another $100,000 to that line item, or we have to cut a position to accommodate that. We can't do that. It just goes against everything in me not to have I mean, $100 million budget to have zip for variances in some of our people, you really don't think people will understand that? I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think that
They don't want to hear it.
There's a cadre of people out there that are gonna be opposed to the override, so you automatically discount them. There's gonna be a cadre of people that are totally pro override. You're shooting for the middle, you're looking for that middle ground, where is it?
And I think
15
people in
over
this
here,
town are
15.
smart enough to understand that you need a little cushion in order to face, and at the end of the day, they get to say yes or no.
That's right.
That's the biggest piece, and we don't include that when we talk about this.
But also don't forget that there were over 4,000 people that voted. And those people that you're saying that make the choice, there's a much smaller number that show up at town meeting to make that choice.
Right.
Town meeting will pass because of the schools.
It's the ballot box.
It's the ballot.
Yeah, so it won by 10-1 on the floor, and then it lost by less than 0.5% of the ballot.
When we have at a 30%, turnout, it's problematic. But that's not, I think the issue is purely financial for me. It's the flexibility to support some flexibility.
It's, even though you only have 26 left, but we don't spend all this money all at once. So we got a bank account. We haven't spent it all yet. We've got a $100 million bank account sitting there. And as the year progresses, the available funds for flexibility decreases, but you still got a cash flow that you can,
And it will go into free cash.
Can't spend it.
Can't spend it.
yeah.
Can't spend it for people, can't spend it for bills that come in on a monthly basis for the lights, the phone, the heat, the mud.
What I don't think a lot of
But
people
that's what-
appreciate is the lack of
That's right.
flexibility that they have with the cash that does come in.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's very restrictive. And
Very.
It's by town meeting vote, that's all they can spend on. They have to go back to town meeting for anything more than what they've been approved at the last town meeting.
Or start.
There isn't a lot of
diminishing
flexibility.
services.
But that excess capacity that we're talking about isn't something they could readily get to anyways. If you wanted to spend any of that 300,000, let's pick a number here, a round number, you still have to go back to town meeting to get it. They can't write a check for that 300 if they felt like.
So
it.
Betsy, to Friend's point right here, why are you so worked up if you don't have excess capacity? Because if they have excess capacity, they can't spend it until we go through this whole cycle again next year. So I'm a little confused between Friend's view there and your view that there's absolutely, like, how could you run $100 million budget with no excess levy capacity?
The excess capacity means you don't have to go back to a ballot question in order to get the money. If you don't have that, we need to, if we have to increase taxes in order to solve that problem, and it's in that 300,000 range with accepting 1.8 million, we have to have an election after the special town meeting to get that money. So it gets really hard and complicated and expensive to get it.
And with
That's the difference.
this and the excess levy capacity, probably would only come into play when we were doing FY 28.
Right.
Mhm.
It won't come into play in this year.
Because we've
It
got
will
this year
just-
covered.
It will just give us the ability when we're looking at FY 28, if the electric bills have doubled or something, or
Health insurance.
health insurance, yeah, exactly. If we have a huge number that we have to make up, then we have the ability to present that at town meeting and have town meeting vote and not go through this exercise of increasing the levy.
Oh, you get valid question.
But via a ballot question.
I'd rather, if we take the 906, I'd rather throw it in stabilization, just leave it there.
Now, in this special, we are putting back that money we took out of stabilization for the police
Yes,
and the firemen.
We're
and the
gonna
special.
replenish.
We're gonna
the money we took out.
recapitalize that.
Correct.
Yeah.
From where? Free cash.
Free
So
cash.
that's in the special town meeting warrant that you have not seen
We haven't
yet?
seen it yet.
Okay,
It's
and that will be.
You didn't miss that.
Okay, I'm like, where's
It's coming. It's
So-
within the annual.
So,
So what do you want?
and
for
Margaret,
today?
maybe I'm being ridiculous, but it just seems like we're cutting it so tight for this large, and things change. And it would give us a year to, if we had some extraordinary circumstance, it might give us a year to make a thoughtful decision as opposed to being forced into a corner.
I obviously a lot of work and a lot of effort. I think the one thing that is missing, and I loved Mary's presentation from September 8th, where you highlight the structural deficit in the budget, not just for this year, for next year, the year after. I think if I were pitching this, it's not, we needed to, the select board priorities were to add some critical positions. There's a structural issue with the budget, and let's start there. Because when you work through the structural mandatory spending line items that we have, there's not a lot of leftover. So we can talk about a position here, we can talk about a position here, but when we have to address the mandatory spending line items first, we're already in a structural deficit position. So, Mary, I don't know if you present that slide deck in an updated version in the next few months, but I think that deck highlights the structural issue the town is that's not debatable.
It's hard. I think that the 900 is off the table. I think
I'll tell
that,
you right now it is.
yeah, the 900
I
is
don't need to ask.
off the table. I don't think that the trust level is such that they're gonna say, hey, we're gonna give you a 3-year leash. But a 1-year buffer, that is less than what, point something percent?
I think you're sacrificing the possibility of not passing 5P.
Okay.
And that overweighs, in my opinion, the luxury of having that capacity.
I don't look at it as a luxury. I think of it as,
Or the physical responsibility of having the excess capacity. How's that?
right.
We're foregoing that in order to get what we feel we really need for this year.
Hmm,
Agreed.
God.
Um,
You guys ready to
How
vote?
about- No, we don't have to, we're not voting anything, right?
Yeah,
I
we
think
have to-
I'd like a recommendation to bring.
Well, that's what I was suggesting, that
Exactly, I was gonna say
is
something.
to just divide it into two questions. How many of us want one? And the rest of you who are thinking about something else, instead of having three other options, pick a number, 250, 300. How many want option one, or option that includes 300 or 250, whatever number you want to pick? And we can decide that way, and that way you'll have your vote. That makes sense? I mean, we can't vote.
So doing a
If we do one, and we have a vote of 3 in favor, 2 opposed, I mean, is that what you want, or?
Or you could just, based on these 4 options here, if I'm understanding you correctly, just maybe poll the membership to see.
Something to
which
that effect, but I
option
was
is there.
cutting it down to 2 options,
I see.
0 or 300.
Gotcha.
I do agree with Friend's view. I would split it so it's not combined 1.9 million plus the excess levy, and you combine it to one household tax impact. I would split it out so people can see the 5B budget is X, excess levy is $20. I wouldn't combine those two numbers.
Okay.
So
I'm not sure I understand what the methodology is
I
here.
would he.
I think that we just don't want to give them too, that we were all over the place. How many people just said go with I
mean,
like to
we
call
could
it
have-
Brian's
We could have
option.
3 people say 1, you could have 2 people say 2, 1 person say 3, and another person say 4. And I think that sort of blurs our response.
I know you.
It's either you believe in
You have
excess capacity at this time,
If
or you
go
want to
two,
live
two,
without it,
two.
is all I'm saying.
So obviously one is in, option 1, and then we just pick.
We could
one
just
of
go
the
with
other.
4, the 250, the most conservative of all of the choices.
I'll show you another conservative one. How about option 5?
Oh,
Where
Jesus
you
Christ.
take, what does it take to get to a $2 million override? It takes $108,084.
No,
Well, there you go.
That's
That would
a
just,
thought. There it is. on the
I
vote.
wouldn't do that because then it's just looking like you're making up the override number versus a detailed.
you put thought into this, let muddy the waters anymore.
Yeah, it's based on.
Al?
Yeah,
Let's just vote.
I just want to point out that I'm good with any number that we can all agree on. I don't care if it's 360, 287. I mean, when all is said and done, we know that we worked on this, but it's going to look like we picked a number from the sky, no matter how we get to it. So the question really becomes, what do we all feel comfortable with? I'm not interested in spending my energy splitting hairs or fine tuning something that's going to have a thud when it hits the public. The question is, what sounds reasonable, solid, and what is believable that can be explained to people when they come up to you and they say, you're looking to put together a slush fund and raise my taxes by another $500 a year or some number. My response to that will be, actually, no, we're not going to raise your taxes by $500 a year. Here's how this works. I mean, it's that kind of approach that we need to be ready and prepared to talk about. Because anything else, we're not going to be sitting in the confines of this wonderful senior center and Zoom room explaining this to people. We're going to have to face it on a day-to-day basis. And I'm prepared to do that. So you pick a number and I'll vote with the majority.
We've got to stop thinking of it in terms of we are going to change the taxes. Town meeting is going to pick the number. We're giving them just some more flexibility in picking the number.
Betsy, that of course is understood. It's the town vote. So what will be on display is perhaps a very healthy discussion and debate about the pluses and minuses and what it all means. You know, what happens if we do and how we deal with that in terms of our operating budget in the current 27 year, and what's the likely outcome in 28 and 29. And reasonable people will listen to that. I'm in agreement with that.
Okay,
I'm
Jan?
option one.
Option one.
I'm 3.
I'm three.
I'm
I'm
Ron,
3.
I'm 1.
I'm pulling up the sheet again. 1.
So is that 4 for 1 and 3 for 3?
I'll go
Al?
for 3. I'll go for 3.
So we're split 50-50.
That was helpful.
Not at all. Where's Chuck? Chuck! I think that this is, I mean, we're obviously going to be there and can explain, you
We're
know.
all in favor of the override, though. I think like.
If you weren't afraid it was going to cause it to fail, which would you choose?
That's unfair.
No, I'm not playing
I
fair.
mean, I think,
What do you think is the better financial decision?
I would go 3.
And friend,
Easily.
3?
My heart is there. I feel as bad voting for 1 as I did last year when the override lost.
Right,
Make sense?
yep. Mark?
I mean, what are you asking versus what we just voted on?
I'm asking that if you're voting for 1, you voted for 1, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're voting for 1 because you think it will fail if we don't ask for more than that, or maybe I'm reading into it. What if there was not a fear of it failing, which would be the better financial recommendation?
The number 3. Yeah. But I think Randy's made the point, you need to be able to sell it.
And I think a 20-year history of what we've allowed ourselves as a cushion is a fairly easily understood.
Well, we'll see what the selectmen think.
Yep, and
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
And they're gonna say
then-
1.
and then
I know
kinda
I've lost, but I
Yeah, I got a good
just
idea,
can't
too.
vote for what I think is a bad.
But hold on, but Betsy, that 20-year history was from under taxing to our maximum amount. Now we want to tax over the maximum amount. So, like, there's a difference there. Like
No,
people.
No, that's not true.
No. How are you guys not sure? We just went through this. Student Opportunity Fund provided funding for the town, so you didn't have to increase the levy as much as statutory law allowed you to. So instead of taking property taxes up 2.5%, you took them up 2%. That excess 50 basis points was the excess levy capacity. So now we're talking about the excess levy is adding to the 2.5%. I think it's a big difference versus the last 5-6 years.
Because this is good, because if you think this, then that's something that we need to straighten
Which
up.
is why
Yeah,
we have to be sensitive to the conversation
right.
about excess levy capacity and what the public's understanding and perception of it is. Mark, excess levy capacity is not adding to the tax levy. It is actually the amount that you're not utilizing or under taxing in the tax levy. So it is the ability in future years to grow the budget in a certain area using that excess levy capacity. So it's the amount that you do not issue in taxes in a given year.
It doesn't.
I apologize. I am more confused right now than I was an hour ago, because literally it sounded like an hour ago. Other funding sources provided the levy for our town, so we didn't have to increase property taxes as much as we otherwise would have. That funding has disappeared. So we are maxing out the 2.5%, increase in real estate tax, and we're asking for an excess above that.
Right.
Betsy,
Right?
you indicated that if we could be assured in our own minds that this would pass, what would we choose? And everybody sort of rogered up for 3. The fact
Right.
is, in my mind, this isn't gonna pass. Therefore, we should go with 1, depending on what the selectmen do. Because that would be the prudent way to get the rest of what we want to get done passed.
You make a decision for the voters.
So
Yeah,
your straw poll for the select board is that the finance committee was split
Mhm.
between these 2 options.
Right.
And ultimately, as you've said several times.
I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself.
No. What I was gonna say is, ultimately, the decision rests with the
Yes.
select board. And so you've provided, unless you guys want to take a re-poll, you've provided an opportunity for the select board to sort of focus on 2 considerations. And ultimately, they're gonna make the decision
Absolutely.
anyway, right?
And there'll be 5 members, they're all gonna be there, so they'll render a decision one way or the other.
And would
Unless somebody abstains.
Chuck will be back before we, do you want me to get Chuck's opinion on this thing or Fred can?
He's not
No,
here.
he didn't benefit from the
He's not here.
conversation.
What's the
Yeah,
difference?
Okay, all right, I'm just asking,
Yeah, no, it's a good way to break a tie, but I think you know, you guys have had a very robust discussion about it, and I think it's unfair.
Very
to
robust.
Sort of insert him at the end without that.
And I have to, applaud the fact that, you and Rainey and went back and you're now presenting this, which was a very different number than what you first thought was a good idea because you're listening. And I don't think anybody can ask more than that.
Well, I will tell you, I play open Facebook, right? My sincere thanks to you, friend, of course to you, for helping me see the light of this. I deeply appreciate it.
At the end of the day, this is a budget for the community. It
Right.
is to provide the services to the community.
Yep.
And
And they're gonna decide.
Provide the best
But I
recommendation that
appreciate all the
we,
assistance that got us here.
Right.
well, we started in September, Rainey.
Yes.
And if
We've been working on it.
And if the select board, if everybody feels as though this is, leaving this with a penny over what we need for B is going to be an unnecessary risk. Just to play devil's advocate, because I put you on the spot and said, what would you do? I honestly, if this was the consensus of everybody that deals with this, that this was going to cost us the override. 1. I mean, I would flip as well. I'm kind of going back to what I think is a good financial decision and,
I'm uncomfortable with it, but
yeah.
I.
But you're more uncomfortable with the number being higher. I
But
get
we're,
it.
we're
Get
not,
that way
we are
more and
not
more.
here to sell
Nope,
the override, is my point. We are here to recommend the best financial advice to the town.
right.
That's our responsibility.
So I'm gonna throw a wrinkle, and I'm probably gonna regret this.
Sure. No, you go. I've got things I regret too. It's okay.
But, for the future, there are communities who have in their financial policies
Oh, you are gonna regret this.
an excess levy capacity.
You know, I
policy.
went to our financial policies to look for whether or not we had a policy for it, and we don't.
We don't.
Correct.
I was hoping
So-
we did, but we don't.
But in
We
light
should.
of this.
That would be
it-
an easy thing to lean on if we had it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So
yeah.
it's sort of a double-edged sword right now, and that's why I'm raising
Well,
it
we
is.
Can't just
And I
put it
think
in.
that, our financial policies are in a state where they do need to be reviewed and refreshed anyway.
Mhm.
They were adopted back in 2018. And there are some things that we have talked about in my short time here that we'd like to do a refresh. So
We should start that process.
we should
Yes.
probably, can we do that over the summer?
Our community has changed and our
Exactly.
environment has changed
Late summer.
considerably.
So given this challenge, I think that that's probably something that we may want to consider.
Yeah.
Okay, can
I
we
agree.
now entertain a motion to adjourn?
No, well, before you do that, Linda, did you?
Oh, you wanted to
Minutes of the 11th, did you send those to everybody? Yes, so the minutes for the December 11th meeting were circulated.
Yes,
These are the ones that we read. I given some comments to Linda, and she's made the corrections. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of December 11th, 2025 as amended.
second,
okay. Mark,
Aye.
Al? Aye, Teddy?
Aye.
JRI.
And I.
Actually, I.
Betsy, aye.
Kathleen, I.
Okay,
You know, it's interesting enough, 1% of them, 100 million. Right? A
Mhm.
$1 million.
mm-hmm,
That's
Yeah.
the 906.
Right.
oh,
Oh, now you remember.
motion to adjourn
So moved.
for chair
Seconded.
quits.
All in favor, quick.
Aye.
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 Ted,
Thank
aye.
you, guys, appreciate it.